Andrew Moss, interviewed at Knoxville, Tennessee. Interviewer not identified. Age when interviewed, 85. One thing that's all wrong with this world today is that they ain't no prayer grounds. Down in Georgia where I was born, that way back in 1852, us colored folks had prayer grounds. My mammy's was an old, twisted, thick-rooted muscadine bush. She'd go in there and pray for deliverance of these slaves. Some colored folks cleaned out knee spots in the cane bakes. Cane, grows high and thick, and colored folks could hide themselves there and nobody could see and pester them. You see, it was just like this during the war and before the war too. White folks make a heap of fun of the colored folks for all time praying sometimes. Say you was a slave and you get down to pray in the fields or by the side of the road, and master come along and see a slave on his knees. He say, "What you praying about?" And you say, "Oh master, I was just praying to Jesus because I wants to go to heaven when I dies." And master says, "Use my Negro. I get you to heaven. Get up offen your knees." The white folks what owned slaves thought that when they go to heaven, the colored folks would be there too waiting on them. And if it was a Yank come along, he'd say too, "What you praying about?" You gives the same response and he say, "We's gonna save you. We going to set you free. You wants to be free, don't you?" "Yes, sir, boss." "Well then," Yank say, "come go along with me. Ain't no use keep praying." "Please, sir, boss, I'll have to ask my master." Yank say, "What you mean, master?" "You ain't got no master. We setting you free. Sometimes these take a rope round you and they start riding off, but they don't go too fast, so you walk behind. Sometimes along comes another Yank on a horse and he asks, 'Boy, ain't you tired?' 'Yes, sir, boss.' 'Well, you get up here behind me and ride some.' Then he wrapped the rope all around the saddle horn, wraps and wraps, but leaves some slack, but he keeps you tied so you won't jump down and run away." And many's the time a praying Negro got took off like that and weren't never seen no more. Course, if you goes with them, you remember your training, and before you leaves the field, you stacks your hoe nice like you was quitting the day's work. They learned the little arms to do that. Soon's they begins to work in the fields. They had little hoes, handles about the size of my arm for the little fellas. I walked many a mile when I was a little fella up and down these roads, following the grown folks and chopping with the hoe round the corners where the earth was soft, so the little ones could hoe easy. Whoopee! Let that dinner horn blow, and everybody stacks the hoes nice, neat, stacked standing up, and starts to run. Some eats in the own cabins, but them what eats at the big house sits down at a long table and gets good grub too. Every night our master gives us everyone a glass of whiskey. That's to keep off disease. Mornings we had to all drink tar water for the same purpose. That wasn't so tasty. My master's name was George Hopper. That man paid taxes on more than 2,000 acres of land in two counties. I lived in two counties, was born in Wilkes and raised in Lincoln County, Georgia. We called it the Middle South. My master, he never did marry. Lots of folks didn't. They just took up with one another. Master Hopper had 5 children, by my grandmother. She was his housewoman. That's what he called her. And when he died, he willed her and all the children a house, some land, and a little money. He'd left them a heap more money, and he'd been one of the richest men in the county if the war hadn't broke out. When it was over, he had a barrel full of Frederick greenbacks, but there wasn't no count. He done broke then. One day my uncle, he was the colored overseer, he went to Danbury, 6 miles from where we lived at, and he paid $5 a pound for coffee. That was before the North whipped the South, and they hadn't killed down the money value for the South. Talk about hard times. We see them in them days during the war, and most especially after the surrender. Folks these days don't know what trouble looks like. We was glad to eat ash cakes and drink parched corn and rye instead of coffee. I seen my grandmother go to the smokehouse and scrap up the dirt where the meat had dropped off and takes it to the house for seasoning. You see both armies feed off the white folks, and they cleaned out the barns and cellars and smokehouses. When they come one time, when the Yanks was on the way to Augusta, I was picking up chips to make the supper fire. When I see them coming, I headed out from there and hid behind two little hills down by the big spring. After a while, my brother find me and he tell me to come on back to the house and see them white men's dance. The Yanks kept coming and they eat all night, but daylight they was through marching past, and then come the rebels. When they come, we had 5,000 bushel of corn, 100 head of hogs, 350 gallons of syrup, and such. When they left, they took and set fire to everything to keep it away from the Yanks, aiming to starve them out of that country. That's what they done. Some of them rebels was mean as the Yanks, and that was being mean. Some called the Yanks the Hornets, 'cause they fight so. Take a Yank and he'll fight across a buzzsaw and circle 50 miles a minute. That time when the Yanks was going to Augusta and I went to black my master's boots, he give us a 2-cent piece, big as a quarter, for boot blacking. I say, "Master, who is them soldiers?" And he say to me, "They is the Yankees come to try to take you away from me." And I say, "Looks like to me, Master, if they wants to take us, they ask you for us." Master laugh and say, "Boy, them fellas don't ask with words. They does all they talking with cannons. Did you know that a white woman shot the first cannon that was ever fired in the state of Georgia? She was a Yankee colonel wife. They say named Miss Anna. I don't know the rest of her name. She wants to be the first to fire a cannon, she say, to set the Negroes free. That was before the war began. The roar of that cannon was in folks' ear for more's 5 days and nights. How I come to Knoxville, I was a young man when I started off from Georgia, aiming to go over the mountains to Kentucky. While I heard they paid good wages, I stopped in Campbell County, Tennessee, with another fella, and I seed a pretty gal walking in the fields. And I says, "I'm going to marry that gal." Sure enough, me and her was married in less than 6 months. Her master built us a log house and we lived there till we come to Knoxville, Tennessee. Now all of my boys is dead. Every one of them worked for Mr. Peters or Peters and Bradley flour mills, and they all died working for him. So Master Willie, he say he gonna let me live here in the company house the rest of my days.